Hello and welcome to episode 114 of Page One, the Writers Podcast. I'm Tarek.
And I'm Marco, and thanks for joining us on the podcast where we like to speak to writers of all kinds about their writing journeys, find out how they got into the industry and try and get as many hints and tips from them as possible. And we've had a great run of guests on the past few episodes of the podcast.
Yeah.
Including last week we had the award-winning crime writer Chris Whitaker.
That's fantastic.
And that theme continues this week, although perhaps I shouldn't say that, as the award-winning crime writers are a dagger to your heart.
A dagger to my heart. Very excellent pun there, Marco. Yes, this week we're chatting with the obviously well-worthy, fantastically award-winning author Janice Hallett, who...
I should perhaps clarify that Janice beat Tarek in the CWA Awards.
Well-deserved win, Janice. It was for her novel The Appeal, which was her first crime novel, and it's a fantastic book, and it's a kind of crime novel, but it's made up of emails and text messages. It's a really unusual format, but it's a really compelling read. It's fantastic.
Yeah, you can really see, as we speak to Janice about it, you can really see that her background is in screenwriting, because it's a very unusual but brilliant approach that she takes with her books, and that's after, you know, she did have some early success in her screenwriting career. She had a film called Retreat made with Cillian Murphy.
Yeah.
And after that, as we've heard from other guests, it can be difficult to get consistent success in screenwriting. So someone suggested to her, why not turn this idea into a novel? Which,
great advice.
Yeah, it turned out to be a brilliant idea. And yeah, her latest book, The Twyford Code, is a similar non-prose approach. I think it's a series of audio files. And it's an approach that you would think, given the structure of the books, it would take some planning.
You would think that.
But as we find out, maybe not.
No, it's a fantastic chat, and yeah, very interesting. I think there's a lot there, whether you're a script writer or a novel writer. Definitely some new stuff here, I think.
But anyway, we'll get straight into the podcast after a quick advert for our writer's notebook, and then we'll be back at the end of the podcast with a bit more chat and to let you know about next week's guest.
But for now, on with the podcast.
The blank page. To some, it's terrifying, an obstacle to overcome. But we prefer to think of it as an opportunity, a blank canvas to be filled with all of the adventures and characters in our head. So how to overcome that fear? Well, we all know the best advice for a writer is write. Seriously, get words on the page and more will follow.
But what about later, when you start trying to pull those threads of what you've written together? What about the character you wrote about way back at the start? Who was she again? What was she carrying? And where did she leave the MacGuffin that she now really needs in the third act? Think about all those top thrillers you like to read, or that amazing drama you just watched. What did they all have in common? Structure and planning.
As aspiring writers ourselves, we've tried many different methods to try and organise all the thoughts about the stories we want to tell. We've been there searching for a piece of scrap paper to note something down, or making a quick note on our phone in between meetings.
Or sometimes we'll make a note in whatever notebook we're carrying, or a document on our laptop so we don't forget that great idea. Let's be honest, it can all be a bit messy and it's easy to lose track of everything. And that's when we realised it's not just a story that needs structure and planning, but the way we gather all of our thoughts about it as well.
And so we made Page One. Page One is more than just another notebook. It's a place to put down all your ideas for your latest project, divided into easy-to-use sections that will help you plan your story, so that when that blank page comes calling, you're ready to answer. And then afterwards, once it's written, we realised you need to plan how to let people read it, so we included a section relating to submissions.
Each one is designed for one project, whether you want to write a book, screenplay, a comic, or any other kind of story. We truly believe that when you use it, it will help you get to the main event, writing your story. So we hope this helps.
We can't wait to read what you come up with.
And remember, every story starts with page one.
Did you always want to be a writer?
The short answer to that is yes. From the moment I learned to read and write, always wanted to be a writer. And I was always kind of good at it. And I worked that out because the teacher would often read my work to the class. Now that sounds great, doesn't it? But let me tell you, that does not endear you to your classmates when you're young. In fact, never, at no point in your school career does that make people like you. I was not cool at all, because my essays were read out all the time. And so I always had a sort of idea that I was good at it and I could do it, which I think was a good sort of grounding for being a writer. It was a good grounding for years and years of failure when people didn't seem to want to read what I'd written.
And that led to you studying English at university then, was I suppose the most obvious pathway, if that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah, it was really. And that was because back in those days, there weren't many or any, I think, creative writing courses at university, that if you wanted to write, you had to kind of do English, even though beyond the age of about 14, you didn't really do much creative writing. You were generally reading and writing about the books you'd read. Because there's a subtle change, certainly in my day, in English classes from when you're a child to when you're a teenager. So I ended up writing, but I tended to be writing about other people's books, which wasn't really the same, but it was the only route I could see to having a career where I was writing all the time. So,
yeah, because you went on to work as a magazine editor, is that right? And then you also worked for an agency that kind of wrote for the government type. Was it? I wasn't exactly sure what exactly was you were writing for the government, but was it kind of like an agency that wrote some kind of documents or adverts for them?
Yeah, they were run by sort of ex-civil servants who noticed a gap in the market for government communications, and that could be anything. That was speeches for politicians.
Oh, right, okay.
Right up to or down to, I don't know, up to or down to articles in magazines that would be produced by, say, the Job Centre for people who work there, or by the Metropolitan Police as part of the Home Office, for policemen and women, police officers. And that would be, I remember working for Specials magazine for special police officers. So it was a really varied, you didn't know from one day to the next.
What's a special police officer?
It's kind of volunteer police.
Oh, I see.
If they still have them, actually, probably your listeners will know whether they still have them or not. But back in 2006, they definitely still had special police officers who were volunteers. And they had their own magazine at the time, and I wrote articles for that.
And all this stuff must have been really good to help you to teach. I mean, I know it wasn't the kind of writing you wanted to do, but was there stuff that you learned from those jobs, like working to deadlines and edits and stuff?
I learned so much. I mean, the 15 years I spent in magazine publishing was really, really useful too. But the year and a half I spent doing that, sort of often by the seat of my pants, writing about things I knew nothing about, was a great preparation for, writing novels, writing scripts, and having to take the plunge, having to meet deadlines when I just didn't know what to write. It was a real education. When a lot about being a writer is confidence to start writing and getting words down on a page, and that helped me there a lot. It was still very, very hard. I wouldn't go back to doing that, I don't think, at the moment, but it had its place in my career.
Yeah, and also finishing things, I suppose, is a big thing for people that are wanting to get into writing. It's often people will have 30, the start of 30 great novels, but they've never pushed through to the end. And I think getting into that habit and learning how to finish something, whether it's technical writing or fiction, is always a helpful skill to learn.
100%. They're two separate skills, starting something and finishing something. And a lot of writers fall at the first hurdle. They don't start. They've always got their ideas in their heads, but they don't start. Yeah, and as you say, others never finish.
And you had an interest, obviously, in screenwriting in particular. What was it that drove you down that path as opposed to, fiction at first?
That I came to screenwriting via playwriting, really, because when I gave up my job in publishing, I'd been doing amateur drama for, all of my life. It was my main hobby. And a friend, Sharon, and we'd written a play. And just as I was giving up my career in publishing, this play we were putting on with the Raglan Players, it was called It's My Manor. And I thought, well, that'd be good, because just as I've stopped my full-time job, I can throw myself into this play and really give it my all, see if that's something I fancy doing. And of course it was amazing. The first time the audience laughed at the first joke in that play, which was a joke that I'd written, that I was hooked from that moment to this. That's led to me being here. And I was hooked. So the playwriting although I loved it, it didn't seem to be a career, whereas screenwriting did seem to be a career. So shortly after It's My Manor was put on by the Raglan Players, I signed up for an MA in screenwriting with Royal Holloway, and that's what led to my short and bumpy screenwriting career up until that point.
Well, for folk listening who are interested in the kind of masters in screenwriting, what was the course like? What sort of stuff do you learn on it, and is it something you'd recommend others doing?
Yes, I would recommend it, and not everybody does it. I mean, it's strange, and I'm always in two minds as to whether to recommend it or not. I loved it. I had the time of my life on that writing course. I met friends that I'm still friends with now, and at the end of it, I had a script that I was really proud of and that I knew would make people sit up and read it. On the downside, I think an MA in screenwriting doesn't really get you into the industry itself per se. It will give you confidence. It would teach you how to do it. And I never had any doubt once I'd finished that MA that I could write a screenplay because I'd learned how to do it and I'd done it. And that's a valuable thing, that level of confidence going into that industry. And I had this script that I could show people. So for that alone, and for the safe space in which to write with other like-minded people under the guidance of, it was Sue Clayton, who ran the course at the time. She was a director. So I had, a professional was teaching you how to do it. That was fabulous. So yeah, for me, I loved it. I wouldn't have not done it. Not everybody wants to study for 2 years or can afford to, or can afford the time. So I don't think you have to, but if you've got the time, if you can afford it, it's a great way to get into that industry.
Does the course involve, does it give you any of the practical side? Obviously, it teaches you the technical side of writing a screenplay and things, but do you get any contact with people in the industry at all during the course?
We had people come in to talk to us. I've done lots of different sorts of screenwriting courses, really. And yeah, you do tend to meet people from the industry. It hasn't created openings or opportunities, really. I mean, it doesn't. I think when you're in a creative career, there's a kind of aversion to a formal training and formal qualifications. I think people would love to get a sort of unpolished talent and to say, well, we've got this screenwriter who's never written before and she's come up with an amazing idea, rather than this person has invested in a 2-year course and then another year course doing something else. They would rather have that romantic story than the boring person who's got all the qualifications like an accountant might. So there's that element too, and there's no prerequisite for a qualification in the industry of screenwriting. A lot of people come up into that industry through working as researchers and through working as script editors and other ways, and they have no formal qualifications or training apart from on the job. So I will hesitate to recommend the courses, but if it's something you feel you'd like to do and you feel you need confidence building in that direction and you've no experience or contacts in the industry, then it's a good way to build them up.
Now, you went on to write or to co-write Retreat, which was a film made with Cillian Murphy. I believe that's how you say his name. And Jamie Bell. Cillian, yeah. And Jamie Bell. And I wondered, how did that come about? And was that the script that you've been working on during your MA?
Yes, it was that very script that got me that job. It's actually a strange way that I came to do that. My friend emailed me, a friend who was on that MA course, said, I've got the latest edition of Shooting People, which certainly was back then a film industry website that connected professionals together. She said, I've seen a post on one of the forums there asking for a playwright to help a director rewrite a script. And I thought, that sounds like me, it's definitely a job for me. So I signed up for Shooting People, and if she hadn't seen it, I never would have. Signed up for Shooting People and hooked up with Carl Tibbetts, who was that director who placed the ad. He had a script that he'd written called Retreat, and it's the basic story of the film with those 3 characters. But he'd been advised to get a playwright to polish it up and rewrite it basically. So that's what I did. We got together. He read my calling card script, and we got together and did that. I stayed. That was 2007, 2006, 2007. Now, Retreat was filmed in 2010, so it was 3 to 4 years that I stayed on board, rewriting and working with him on that story. And it was released in 2011. So that's how many years. That's quite fast for a film. That's not a long time at all. It's a long game industry, put it that way.
Yeah, it's a funny thing because absolutely is a lot. We've had some screenwriters on, and definitely that's the story they tell as well. But it's a funny thing because often a screenplay, as opposed to a novel, for example, it seems that it's possible to write a screenplay in a quicker way than a novel. But actually living with that, if you like, it lasts a lot longer because of the process and the number of people that need to look at a screenplay and decide if it's right and all of that sort of thing.
100%. Yeah, it swings and roundabouts. I mean, a screenplay, if you're really flying, you can write it so quickly. Even a 90-minute film. I mean, I've done that when I've been fired up with an idea. I've done that in 2 to 3 weeks, and it's so light and airy, and it's so. If anyone's written a script, they'll know it's at the top of your mind, and you can fly through it with all the dialogue and so on. I mean, people who work on say 30-minute dramas on TV can write one of those scripts in days. You know, that they're so not easy to write, but they're fast to write, and you're collaborating with other people. So if you're stuck, you've got other brains, other minds, other creatives to help you. And the novel is the opposite. You're on your own, and you're on your own day after day after day and month after month, and often a year, and sometimes more than a year if you're working slower, if you're a slower worker, or if it's your first novel, likely to be longer. So the two are totally different experiences.
No, after Retreat came out, did you want to continue down that path? Did you keep writing more scripts? Was that the plan?
Yeah. Carl and I stayed working together as co-writers for years. I think that it came out in 2011. We've worked on countless ideas, and this is often getting quite far into development with them, working with production companies, working with producers. So we weren't just on our own there. We were working year after year, but the film industry at that time was undergoing quite a change, and not a good one. There was less investment in films of the level that we were working at, the low budget thriller film. And gradually over the years, as the years went by and we were actually getting less and less success, we kind of had to both look at our careers and think, well, where are we going, and what do we want to do? And of course, by then we changed as people. We both had ideas that we wanted to work on ourselves. So I can't remember when this decision was made, or whether we even made a decision, around 2013, 2014, we kind of stopped working together, and he went off and did his thing. Went off and did mine. And that's when I started to try and seriously get into TV writing, which I'd always wanted to do, but I had been working with Carl, so I hadn't had a huge amount of time to do it. And then so many years of trying to get into TV followed for me, and I was never particularly successful at that.
And so what was it then? When did you decide, right, I'm going to leave the screenwriting and try my hand at fiction instead? When did that happen?
That would have been around 2018. So we were talking about between 2013, 14. So we're talking 4 to 5 years that I solidly was trying to get into TV. That's writing spec script after spec script, coming up with ideas, trying to keep my enthusiasm going, doing lots of schemes for screenwriters and applying for different, all sorts of screenwriting schemes, as anyone who's tried to get into that industry will know. There's lots going on at any one time, trying to get plays on at the same time in the hope that would get my work seen by the relevant TV people. And I was actually on a scheme run by the Triforce Creative Network, and it was for screenwriters from sort of underrepresented backgrounds who weren't breaking through. Now, I'm a woman. By that time, I was an awful lot older than many people in the industry. So I had that. And I try and sound posh, but I am working class, let me assure you that. So I did qualify for this scheme run by Triforce. And that proved to be quite a turning point for me, because I was given Cameron Roach as a mentor. Now, he at the time was assistant head of drama at Sky. And I had a few meetings with him, and I was bemoaning the fact I had so many ideas. I couldn't get them out there. I was coming up with these wonderful spec scripts and these ideas that I loved and characters, and nothing was happening with them. No one was reading them, just my agent and her assistant. And they were just saying, oh, they're great. And then I was putting them in the drawer and starting the next spec script. So I was bemoaning this to Cameron. And he said, well, there is a route you could take. You could try and write one of these ideas as a novel. And that could kickstart your screenwriting career if it was successful. And I went away and thought, well, for the one part, it sounds like he's told me to give up screenwriting after all these years of trying to do it. So I thought, wow. But then I thought some more. And I thought, well, that is true, what he's told me, because what I told him was that I was doing the same thing time and again and expecting different results. And they say that's the first sign of insanity. So if I did something different, what have I got to lose? And that was the key, really. I had nothing to lose at that point. So I closed down Final Draft and I opened up a Word document. I had an idea floating around my head, and it's about two volunteers who'd volunteered overseas in war zones as medics for many years, and they're forced back to the UK, and their experiences that's so out of the ordinary compared to everybody else, those experiences had informed their views of the people in this very small community that they find themselves in. So that idea was flying around. So I thought, well, I'm going to write that idea as a novel. And that was where the appeal started. I didn't think much about it. I didn't read anything about how to write a novel, so I didn't know how to write one. I just started writing, and I had fun, and I enjoyed myself for a whole year until it was finished.
And that's interesting, because you see, you didn't, look into any research on how to write a novel, because the appeal itself is a really interesting type of novel. It's not a traditional novel that people would expect. It's made up of text messages, emails, kind of back and forth conversations. And so I was going to ask you, what made you go down that route? But I take it that was because that was coming from a screenplay background, that kind of all the dialogue heavy route made more sense.
It did, yeah. It was the lack of thinking about it that made me, I suppose, go down the route that I've been going down already, that I knew about people talking. And I think the appeal is, as a reader, we're overhearing people talking when they don't realise we're listening. So yeah, that's exactly where it came from. And I also thought, well, the idea I'd thought of was a screen idea. So I thought, how about the novel being messages going backwards and forwards between minor characters? And that thought behind it was why we don't hear from some of the main characters in the appeal. These main characters, we never see them almost. We just hear about them from other people. We have to build up our own picture of them. And that comes entirely from that thought that this could be the novel that accompanied a screen story.
It is a really interesting way to write a novel. And, there are some other novels that I'm thinking of, like World War Z or something like that, that's got transcripts and things like that takes a sort of similar approach, although even that is more prose heavy, really. But how do you, when you write a script, it's all show, don't tell, and obviously there are some directions, and you're assuming that the people will be on the screen and demonstrating something that will get across the point. But when you're purely in this format, but without doing it in a prose format, how do you get across everything that you need to get across, if you see what I mean?
It's quite a skill, and I think screenwriting does teach you that, because although you have to show and not tell, you have to get things across. I think sometimes in just one or two choices of words, you can get across quite a lot in terms of mood and setting, and in someone's if they say something and they behave a way that suggests they're thinking something else. You can do a lot of that in screenplay writing, but that's part of the technical side that you learn when you learn to screenwrite properly, is to do that, to get things across that means that you are telling, even though it looks like you're showing.
Yeah.
That's part of the skill. I have realized though, when you take an idea for the screen and turn it into a novel, rather the way that you look at the film of your favorite book and think, well, they didn't put XYZ in, they haven't got that character, they didn't put that plot point in. You have to take things out of a book to put it on screen. But if you take a screen idea and turn it into a book, you have to add things. You have to add rather more plots, more characters, and you have to have rather more description, more going on. There has to be more going on. For some reason, it's a weird thing, because normally books are translated to the screen rather than screen ideas translated into books. But
it's true.
I've gone the other way.
It's a fantastic book, and I think it did a really good job of avoiding that kind of, oh, this is Stuart, my brother. You remember him? He's got blue eyes, and that kind of really, but nobody ever talk like that. I just which is all it takes you right out of it, but it doesn't. As you see, with clever word choice, you can get things across in a way that sounds more natural. And I wondered, it's a kind of story where there's twists and turns, etc., and it felt very much like something which must have been meticulously plotted and planned out. But I think I read it was in fact the opposite. Is that right?
The exact opposite. I didn't write many notes at all. I simply wrote and had fun, and I let each character emerge on the page as they arrived. And I think that is why the murder happened so late. I was having such a lot of fun with all these characters interacting, putting this play on and talking behind each other's backs and being a bit snide and a bit dodgy, that the murder didn't happen till much later. So yeah, I don't plot. I'm a pantser rather than a plotter. But my plotting happens at a later stage. That's all. I think it's not writing a novel is no easier either way, because I have to do my plotting later when I have my first structural edit, and that's a lot of hard work. Then that's when I have my head in my hands, trying to sort out the plot points and the characters, and so I do go through the mill, but just not at that early writing stage.
Yeah, I was going to ask that because obviously with something like The Appeal, I was wondering if you're just pantsing it, as they say, how you keep track of the different characters and who said what to whom and when, but presumably that comes in the edit stage then, that you try and hone all of that down.
It does. I spent a whole year writing The Appeal, so that's quite a long time to get to know all of those characters, longer than the time I have to write a novel right now, which is about 7 to 8 months. So I had the luxury of time, and because there's no deadline, I could have taken longer. So yeah, I could work things out a lot, at my leisure, if you like then. Whereas now there's a bit more pressure to have a sort of finished story, finished plot, and rounded characters a lot sooner in the process.
Does that extra pressure mean that you've maybe change your approach do you plan more stuff now, knowing you've got less time to play around with it later on?
I don't really. No, maybe I should. When you say that, I'm thinking, God, goodness, I should plot a bit more.
No, everyone's technique works for them, and if that's the way it works, don't change it.
I'm hoping that being a bit more experienced, because I'm now on my third novel and hoping to trying to start my fourth. I'm hoping the greater experience that will help me get through, and touch wood, so far that is working.
And with the Appeal, obviously it was the first novel. Did you have to find a literary agent for that was different from someone that you might have had when you were a screenwriter?
No, I was lucky at that stage, because my screenwriting agent, Lucy Fawcett at Shield Land, she deals with screenwriting, but at Shield Land they also represent novel writers. So all she had to do was pass my, The Appeal manuscript on to Gaia Banks, who deals with novels. So that was quite an easy transition. Now, I did struggle to get an agent earlier on in my career, and I, in fact, didn't get one, didn't sign with Lucy until I think it was either 2014 or 2015. Now, when you think I gave up my publishing job in 2006, and I'd even had Retreat out. I'd been a screener, I had a film made. I still couldn't get an agent. So that was a real stumbling block for me. And I still feel the stress of not having an agent in this industry for so many years. And if there's anybody out there listening to this who is struggling to find an agent, I would say keep at it, because it took me, it felt like forever, and it held up my career quite a bit. Keep going, keep trying, and you will get there in the end. Because it's, for some people it happens really quickly, others really, really slow. And I was one of those. In almost 10 years, it took me.
Is an agent as important if you're a screenwriter compared to if you're a novelist? I know that obviously they would help you with contracts and stuff, but is it the same kind of, you need to have an agent to get past the post to get your script made?
I would say yes, unless you have particular skills and you've got lots of contacts and you know about contracts and you know lots of people and you can handle your own career. Some people say they do. Unless you've got that, then I'd say an agent is absolutely essential. And they're a real friend for you. They're one of the most important relationships, if not the most important relationships you'll have as a writer. So you need an agent who's good and who's on your side and who loves your work. If you're on your own, some people who've worked in TV and know a lot of people represent themselves. That's fine if they know about the industry and they know people. But you really do need an agent, and that's what makes if you struggle to find one, that's what makes it all the much harder. So yeah, my heart goes out to you out there. Keep going, keep trying. It will happen in the end.
And obviously, you alluded to this earlier, that writing a novel is largely a solitary process compared to a screenplay, which is often more collaborative. Do you miss that more collaborative side of things?
Sometimes I find I miss the novels when I'm writing scripts, and I miss script writing when I'm writing novels. It's like the grass is always greener. Yeah. But luckily, all those years ago, Cameron giving me that advice, saying that writing novels would kickstart my screenwriting career, he was right, because I've got to write the pilot for The Appeal in a couple of years since it's been out. So, awesome. And I hope to be doing the same for the Triforce Code too. So, he was right. It worked, and I'm at the moment in the great position of being able to do both novel writing and script writing.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And it's safe to say that The Appeal obviously has been a massive hit. It's top charts. It's been nominated for numerous awards. You are, of course, up against Tarek in one award.
Oh, yes, that's right.
That's
CWA
awkward.
Debut. I know.
Oh dear. Sorry about that. Gloss over it.
But after having those difficult years as a screenwriter, it must be such a feeling, great feeling to have this recognition for your writing. Absolutely, it's wonderful.
I didn't think it would happen. I thought my time would come and gone, because I'm no spring chicken. When The Appeal was published, I was 52. I'm now 53 and a half. So I thought, was my time, had my time come and gone? Was I never going to make it? I'd kind of come to terms with that, really. I thought I enjoy writing, so I'll keep writing whatever happens. And I think once I got to that stage, that was when things started to happen, and I started to see some success. And I don't know if there's a link between the two, or whether that's something came across in my writing once I'd made my peace with not being successful.
The pressure off almost,
It could have been, So that's it's been wonderful. I still can't believe it. I am going to wake up at some point. But,
Well, your follow-up novel came out earlier this year called The Triforce Code, which you mentioned. And am I right in saying you wrote it back to back with the first one? How did you combat the kind of idea of it being too similar, or did you want it to have you obviously wanted to feel like it was seems the similar style, etc. Because it's the same kind of it's audio extra audio files, etc. But it's a different vibe to it, though.
Yeah, completely different. I mean, I had then once the appeal was taken up by a publisher, I then got a 2-book deal, so I had to write another one, which I was very excited about. But I was still sort of doing bits and bobs for the appeal, because you have to do structural edits, then line edits, then proofing. So I didn't want to suddenly have characters that were similar in this second book. So I made a few rules for myself when I started the Twyford Code. I thought, well, as the appeal had been a big ensemble cast with lots of characters, I was going to really narrow it down for this one. We're going to follow one character. And the appeal had been lots of women, lots of female characters. And I thought this one character in the Twyford Code is going to be a man. So I hoped that would make enough difference so that people wouldn't say, well, this is the same book you've written again. But it's kind of a balance as well, because if people have read your previous books and enjoyed them, they want to read something similar. So it's how far you move out of your lane is kind of a decision you have to make the more books you continue writing. And now I've written my 3rd and I'm about to start my 4th. This is a consideration that is coming more and more to the fore. Do I keep writing books that are similar to this, or do I, because I'm on a creative journey, do I listen to that, what I want to do, or do I give readers what they've had before? Do they want what they've had before? So it's a balance.
And do you want to tell us a bit about what the Twyford Code's about, in case the listeners don't know?
Yes, and I'm often asked to describe the plots of my books, and nothing sends my brain blanker than being asked the plot of the book I've just written.
I know. Especially
it's really weird
or something. Yeah, it's horrible.
I was once asked it. I was at the Cheltenham Festival last year, and it was the first time I'd been interviewed on radio, first time ever. And the chap asked me what the appeal was about, and it was live radio. And I went totally blank. And what he had to do in the end was turn the blurb round that he'd had, on his press release, so that I could read off it. So embarrassing. It was so embarrassing. It was in the press room. So I hope nobody was listening on that Cheltenham radio station on that day. So you asked me what the plot of the Twyford Code is. Here goes. It's about a former prisoner called Stephen Smith, who's out after a long stretch inside. And he's at a turning point in his life. He wants to go straight. And he's got a probation officer. And she suggests that he make a diary, really, of something that he has to look into from his past. And this is something that happened when he was 14. He remembers being in the remedial English class, and his English teacher disappeared on a school trip. So he has to go back to his old classmates to find out exactly what happened, because his memories are vague. But he knows there was something about it, and it plays on his mind. So he goes back to his past to discover what happened. And because Steve has only just learned how to read, he still can't write, and he's only just learned the basics. He has to keep this diary in the form of voice recordings. Now, what we're reading is an automatic transcription of 200 voice recordings that he made on that journey. So we have to work something. That's about all I can say.
Yeah.
But I've remembered it all.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good summary.
And there's no blurb that I can see as well.
Yeah, exactly.
No blurb. I haven't been looking at anything on my computer, but I did when the book first came out. I did when I was doing things like this and radio interviews. So I did have it in front of me. I have to
just in
so
case,
if you've listened to me before and I've sounded a bit like I'm reading something, I probably have.
And is this for all your books? Do you want to take it in this format, this different format, not just straight prose? Is that what you enjoy when you're writing a novel?
I absolutely do enjoy it. I mean, my 3rd book is slightly different. Again, it's a bit more like The Appeal, I'd say, rather than Twyford Code. It's in the form of, well, what we're reading is research material for a true crime book, rather than the actual book itself. We're reading what
cool.
the writer did.
Okay, that's cool.
And just today, I got my line edits through. So this is quite a big day. I've done the structural edits and the line edits have just come back. So that's the second stage of edits where I'm looking through it line by line to comb out problems that have been highlighted.
And what's next then? You mentioned that you're working on you've written the script for the TV version, is that right? And
that's right. Yeah.
Are you hoping to be quite involved in that and to keep writing scripts in that sense?
Fingers crossed. Yeah, fingers crossed. Who knows how things pan out, but yeah, things are always crossed in the screenwriting world. And I don't know how screenwriters manage to type with their fingers all crossed all the time, but we do. Yeah. So yeah, I'd like to, going forward, I'd like to continue doing both novels and screenplays. Would be great. That would be ideal.
And actually, one question we didn't ask you when we were talking about your process and stuff, but the topic of notes, editor's notes, or notes when you're writing a screenplay often comes up, and what we've heard from screenwriters is that there can often be lots of notes from different people that conflict in various ways, and you as the screenwriter have to try and take all of that on board and make sense of it. I mean, I take it that experience in screenwriting probably helps with any editor's notes that you get as well.
Absolutely. I think all the time with any note, if you disagree with it or if you don't really get it, you need to look for the note behind the note. So the person given the note has picked up on something that's wrong. Now their analysis of what it is or the solution might not be quite right, or it's something that you've picked up that's not right, but there's something there that you need to look at to solve that problem. So look at what they're really saying, if you know what I mean, because there'll be something there that they've picked up on for sure. It's an art to learn how to deal with notes, I think, psychologically and practically in the text.
Is it something that, as a debut novelist with your first novel, obviously you had a lot of experience getting notes for years before you wrote a book? Is it hard to knowing? I suppose maybe a question for when you started off screenwriting and getting notes. Is it hard to know when you can push back or how to push back, or is that kind of danger of like, well, what do I know? I'm just starting off. This person knows more than me.
I rarely push back. I think it's a case to choose your battles, and that's not a sort of selfish thing at all. It's to choose them depending on how married you are to a particular part of the script. I think it's very rarely that people give notes and there's not something there. There's not something that needs to be addressed. Very, very rarely. And you can always address it by doing something else that works to address what they picked up on, but that also doesn't clash with what you're doing. So I think there's always a way through with notes. There's always something to look at. But yeah, I would really refuse to do anything at all, because I think that's if you're working with people, you respect their opinion and you need their input. And I would respect the people I'm working with too much to just ignore or to argue. But at the same time, there are some things that I'd like to keep. But then if I want to keep something that the note giver wants me to delete, there might be a way of doing the same thing differently to delete it, but to solve that problem in another way. So I think you have to be creative with notes, really, creative thinking with it, as creative as when you were first working on that part of the script or of the novel. So yeah, it's an art. You learn how to do it. You learn how to deal with notes, and you learn how to deal with people giving them. And I'm lucky, really. I've only ever worked with people I've respected and whose opinion that I know matters and is good.
What was the last book that you read?
The last book I read was it's over there. Let me just get it off, because I read a lot of books at the moment. I read lots of ARCs, advanced reader copies.
Oh yeah.
And fabulous. This is one of the perks of being a well-known writer, is you get to read books before anyone else reads them. And it's fabulous. Let me just take my headphones off. I'm going to go and look for a book. This is live action of me going to look for a book. This book was brilliant. There it is. That's the ARC. I'm showing it over the Zoom. It's called Runtime, and it's by Catherine Ryan Howard, and it's out in 18th of August. It's brilliant. It's fabulous. It's set in the film industry, which is something we've been talking about now. It's funny. It's terrifying. There was one time I finished reading this while I was, waiting to switch the light out to go to sleep. I didn't want to switch the light out. It was so scary, but at the same time, really smart and funny, and a really great read. So yeah, that's my last book. Runtime, Catherine Ryan Howard.
Awesome. I like the arc there. It's quite a nice. It looks like a kind of clapperboard for those.
Looks like a clapperboard.
Yeah, very cool.
I don't think that's the actual cover of the book. I think the book itself has a different cover, but the arc, very, very
nice,
stylish.
Cool. And what about the last film that you watched?
Oh, I haven't watched a film in ages. It could be. What was that one? This is going to be like a quiz. What was that film that was on? It was either Amazon Prime or Netflix, and it was about lockdown. Was it called The Bubble? Is that right?
Oh yes.
They're making a movie.
Bubble? Yeah, they were making a movie, weren't they? And it was a lot of David Duchovny was in it.
Yeah, that's the.
I remember. Yeah, it was quite a wild sort of film. It's crazy. I enjoyed it. It's great.
Nice.
And last TV series that you watched or are watching?
Oh, I've just not just, but the last big series that I finished was Ozark.
Oh,
so I feel a bit bereft
recently as well. That was
No
fantastic
spoilers.
final season. Yeah, no, Marco. You on season 1, Marco?
Yeah, I've only watched season 1.
No, really, we can't say anything.
Ahead of you,
yeah. I wish I was still on season 1. That's great.
I know, but I'm also glad they ended it when they did, and they wrapped up in the way they wanted and didn't just drag on. So it's quite good.
True.
But yeah, no, that was an excellent show.
Mm-hmm.
The very, very last thing we always do is a super quick fire either or, and I always say there's no right answer apart from one. So we'll start off with TV or cinema.
TV.
Night owl or early bird?
Early bird.
Music or no music when you're writing?
While I'm writing, no music, but if I've got a gap in writing, I might put music on.
Cool. And a fancy restaurant or a takeaway?
That's a hard one. I love both. Takeaway, because then I can watch telly while I've got it. Yeah. Takeaway.
I'm going to add one in here. Books or scripts?
Oh no, that's even harder. Well, I'm writing books at this very second, so I have to say books. Right today I'm writing a book, so
fair enough.
Books today.
And then the very last one, but I think I already know the answer, seeing your background. But real book or ebook?
Real book.
The listeners can't see, but there's a big shelf of lots of books there behind. So
I gave ebooks a chance, but I couldn't get on with them. I just prefer an actual book in my hand.
Yeah, there is something nice about having a physical book, but it's the ebooks come into the room when you're on holiday. That's the best.
Absolutely.
You've got your backpack full of 1,000 books, and it's fine. But
and I have to say I've got a bit of a book problem because I've got these shelves you can see behind me, but everywhere else that you can't see. There's piles of books. They're everywhere.
The storage of books becomes quite a problem.
It's an absolute a huge problem for me. I have to say it's a big problem.
It's a nice problem to have, but it's also a problem.
Well, I really enjoyed that chat with Janice, so thanks very much for coming on to the podcast. And I thought it was really interesting what she was saying about this idea of the note behind the note, because I think it's, and we've heard this from others, it's often the case that you'll get a note that says there's something wrong with the book that isn't working, but what they're suggesting may not be the right thing. So you just need to try and identify what the issue actually is behind it.
Yeah, I think it's really important when I can't remember who it was who said, but when if someone says there's a problem and here's the solution, often disregard the solution, but the fact that they're flagging up something, they're definitely flagging up something is wrong, and it's up to you as the writer to work out. They think this is the answer, but maybe there's actually another underlying reason why the confusion's arisen, and that's quite tricky, I think.
Yeah, I think it might have been Neil Gaiman who said that people can tell you what's wrong, but they can't tell you the answer.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So, yeah, as the writer, you need to try and find the answer yourself, even though these notes are always useful in identifying an issue with the book. But anyway, thanks to Janice for coming on. Her new book, The Twyford Code, is out, and we'll put links in the podcast description so that you can buy that. And obviously you can get it in your friendly local bookshop as well. But next week, we've got another great guest, and the crime theme continues.
Yeah, next week we're chatting with Victoria Selman, who her new book is Truly, Darkly, Deeply. And it is a massive hit already. It's been out for about a week at time of recording. It's already in the charts. It's fantastic.
I don't think it's even been a week, is it?
And it's a serial killer family drama kind of mixed together. I'm in the middle of reading it right now, and it's very, very good. And yeah, so I'm very excited to hear what she has to say.
Yeah, so please do tune in for that one, because it'll be another great episode. And if you have enjoyed today's episode, then please do give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or your favourite podcast app, only if it's a good review. And if you can like and subscribe and all of these things, that really helps us climb the charts, which we have been doing. Yeah, please do continue with that.
Keep pleading, Marco. Keep begging. It's obviously working. And of course, if anybody wants to get in touch, they can always send us a tweet in the Twitter machine, which is at UKPage1, or send us an email, which is podcast@rightgear.co.uk.
But otherwise, have a great week, and we'll see you next episode.
See you later.
Well, we hope you enjoyed that episode. If you did, be sure to hit that thumbs up button and hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode like these ones down here.
And if you want to get in touch, you can do so by finding us on our social media platforms up here, or drop us a comment way down below there.
But otherwise, thanks for listening, and join us for the next episode.
See you later.